Good afternoon. Welcome. Monday, 1 o'clock. Time for a little Deal Doctor live stream. Welcome. And I posted on 5-Star Connect a little note that said if you have a question that you'd like to have addressed in the live stream today, post it. We got one. I'm going to address that real soon here. We'd like to have this be as interactive as possible so that we're addressing issues that the agents have out there, and make it topical and current. So if over the course of the next week you want something addressed in the live stream, post it on 5-Star Connect, and then we'll have some topics that we can discuss with you. Obviously, if it's something that we can answer briefly on 5-Star Connect, we will do that too. So just a reminder, not to press the issue, but the golf outing is next week, and you're running out of time to sign up. Okay, not that I'm pushing on that, but it's a lot of fun and a great charity, so I hope you'll join us out there on the golf course. And I would recommend keeping your distance from me. It's not safe. So, but it'll be fun. Anyway, one of the posts we have on 5-Star Connect was from Don Klustra, and his question was, can you counter an offer that has an escalation clause in it and essentially eliminate the escalation clause, or more importantly, to counter an offer with a price and that is not necessarily triggered by the escalation clause? And the answer is yes. In doing that, though, you have to be very careful that you are very specific in that counter, that the seller is countering the offer, the sales price, to be some amount of money, and that the seller will not be providing the buyer any proof of an escalation clause. That basically this is purely and simply a counter offer that is unrelated to the escalation clause that's written. Okay? Don, if that didn't answer your question, I know you're watching. I know you're sitting right there. I can tell. You write back and let me know. Okay? I've got it right here so I can see you. Let's see, what other fun stuff? Gosh, let's see. Making sure stuff is in writing. We've talked about that a lot, and yet we still run into problems with that. In the last week, we've had some issues with agents not putting something in writing, having verbal agreements, and then it comes back to bite them later that they didn't actually have an offer accepted. They had an offer that they thought was accepted because there was a verbal agreement, and then at the last minute got the rug pulled out from under them. We are also having issues with, and I want everyone to be really, really careful. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on delayed submission offers in particular, and delayed presentations of offers. So, when you fill out a listing contract and your intention, yours and the seller's, be very careful, the seller's intention is to hold off until a certain date to make the property go live on the market. That's what's called a delayed submission agreement. That's an amendment or an addendum to the listing contract, a delayed submission agreement. It stipulates what day that listing is going to go live. And so, for example, if I filled one out today and I said this listing is going to be go live on, let's say, June 15th, I would indicate that on the delayed submission form, which would attach to the listing contract, and it would be stipulated in the listing contract that this is a delayed submission listing per the attached delayed submission form. Under that circumstance, you don't have to put it on the MLS until June 15th when it goes live. And you can't advertise it. You can't put a sign in the yard, can't send out a mailing, can't do an open house, can't tell agents about it, can't post it on Facebook. You can do zero marketing during that period of time from the time you list it to the time it goes live under the delayed submission agreement. Okay? Now, several times this has happened where an agent, a listing agent, suddenly gets an offer, sight unseen. They find out that this house is going to go on the market, and they get an offer. And all of a sudden, they are faced with their responsibilities, the question about their responsibilities, what to do with this offer that they now have. Are they required to show it to the seller? Well, yeah. Unless the seller has specifically stated on the listing contract that the seller will not review offers until a certain date. So you have to be very, very clear when you list a property what the conditions are for that seller to review offers and to make the listing go live. This is not to be confused with a delayed showing clause in the listing contract. That's slightly different. For example, if I listed a house today and I wasn't going to permit any showings until Sunday at, let's say, an open house, then I would have to have on the listing contract itself language which says seller will not permit showings prior to the date that they are going to permit showings. But in addition to that, I would include, and seller will not review offers prior to such and such a date. Again, all of this has to be in writing and signed by the seller, and in addition, disclosed on the information sheet, agent comments, and in the marketing comments on the multiple listing information on the Flex MLS or whatever multiple listing system you're using. Okay, so what happens if on Thursday you get this great offer? Now, in this particular case, you can do mailings. You can do Facebook posts and invite the neighbors and all of those kinds of things. You can do all the marketing you want under a delayed showing clause on your listing contract, as opposed to a delayed submission addendum. They're different things. So, on Thursday, you get an offer. And it's a great offer. It's like $20,000 over the asking price. No inspections, no appraisal, $30,000 non-refundable earnest deposit. Let's just say that's a pretty good offer. And so you present this offer to you call your seller and say, hey, I've got this offer. I know that we're not going to look at offers until Sunday, but I have to make you aware that this offer is in my hands. And they have a choice. They can choose to say, what is it? And you have a responsibility to share that information with them. They don't have to look at it, but ultimately the decision as to whether they are going to look at an offer early is up to them, the seller, our client. However, bear in mind that when they do that, there's going to be a lot of other agents out there who are playing according to the rules that seller and you established, and they're going to get pretty ornery about it because they were waiting to Sunday. They were waiting to present the house, to show the house according to your set of rules that you established. And now your seller has decided to change the rules. So how do you go about that process? And the process is one that you have to take very step by step. First of all, you have to get an amendment to that listing contract that says that the seller is going to review any and all offers immediately. Then you have to go in and change all of the comment section in the listing contract, in the listing information on Flex MLS, and you have to upload that amendment to the listing contract into Flex MLS so you can demonstrate that you did steps correctly in case you get called in front of a grievance committee. Now, after you've done all that stuff, let's pretend that you know that there were 4 or 5 agents that wanted to show the property but are holding off. They've called and said, hey, we'd like to get in there as soon as possible. Let us know if anything changes or whatever. If you know of those agents who have done that or communicated some interest, you have some responsibility to call them and say, oh, by the way, we got an offer that the seller has changed their mind. They want to review the offer. If your buyer is interested, we're going to be presenting this offer, tonight at 7 o'clock, tomorrow at 10 a.m., whatever it is. And can you, if your buyer's truly interested, can you get me an offer prior to that? Now, you're going to hear both sides of the argument on this one, because on one hand, you may have an offer that is so incredible that it would be hard to beat. On the other hand, the reason for the multiple listing is to give the house maximum exposure so as to get competition. And this offer coming in is intended to eliminate competition. So what do you recommend to your seller? I don't know. It depends on that particular offer. So it's a tricky business, and one that you have to be exercise caution with as you go down the road, and making sure that you're doing this in the proper order so that you're not called before the grievance committee and found guilty of a violation. Let's see. We got a question. Penny, where on the listing contract does that language go? Penny, I don't have your contract in front of me, so I can't say. I would put it in on the West Michigan Regional Listing Contract. I would put it in other provisions where it says seller requests no showings until such and such a date, and will not review offers prior to such and such a date, typically the day after. So if you have an other provisions area in your purchase agreement, that would be where you could put it. And then on the multiple listing information, I would put it in both agent remarks as well as marketing remarks, because we don't want to hide that information from the public, because that's where we start to get into a problem where the public gets angry and they feel as though they haven't been treated fairly because the information has been maybe given only to agents. So I hope that answers your question. If not, it's right here. Let's see, what else? We got another one?
We have a follow-up to that one.
We have a follow-up to that one. Oh, goody. So there is no other provisions section. Other conditions, other anything? I guess if there's no blank place to put other provisions, then I would probably put it as an addendum to the listing contract, or an amendment. In our case, in the Grand Rapids area's case, we have an amendment. We could put that information, that language in there. So if you have to attach an addendum or an amendment to your listing contract, if there's no blank space there, then that's what I would do to put that language in there. The other thing, you might want to contact your local board. They may have specific instructions, specific protocol for a delayed showings or a delayed submission. So I hope that helps. Again, it's right here if you want to follow that up. Okay. A lot of folks are running into multiple offers, as we have for several years, and it's tough out there. I don't know how else to put it for buyers and buyers agents who are running into offers where they are ridiculous. And all I can say is this is the nature of the market that we have right now. We don't have any idea how long this is going to continue. At this point, it shows no sign of stopping because the inventory of properties available remains high or low in relationship to the buyers, the volume of buyers, which is relatively high. So there's a lot more buyers, relatively few sellers, and it's simple supply and demand. Low supply, high demand, the price is going to go up. So when you run into multiple offers, and the one thing I want to say first of all is I get a call on my own listings, for example, and they say, are you going to call for highest and best? And I just want to respond, are you kidding? Are you serious? Are you really asking me that question? Are you going to call for highest and best? And my answer is no. If your buyer is not willing to write their very best offer, when you know that I've got 5 other offers or 10 other offers in my hands, then you're wasting my time. I mean, you got one shot to write your best offer. And if your buyer doesn't want to do that, they're probably going to lose. So no, I'm not going to call for highest and best. And when I've already got multiple offers. The other thing about that is the dollar amount is not always the best offer. The highest dollar figure on a buy-sell is not always the best offer to choose for your seller. And it's really incumbent upon us as the agents to guide our sellers, to counsel our sellers when we are presenting the offers about the potential pitfalls of any of the offers, the advantages of certain offers, and share with them what, even though an offer might be $5,000 or $3,000 less. And we're going to stop for just a moment to wait for the local fire department to go by. So, where were we? When we have multiple offers, again, write your very best offer right out of the gate. You may not get another chance. When we're counseling our sellers, make sure that if you have an offer that's $10,000 less, but it's cash with no inspections and is not contingent upon an appraisal, that offer may be better for what the seller needs than an FHA offer that's $10,000 or $20,000 over the asking price. So look at the offers. It's our job to weigh the offers and to communicate what's strong about an offer, what's not so strong about an offer, and let our clients decide which one they feel is best for their particular conditions. They may want to get the house sold fast, get it closed, and move on as quickly as possible. In that case, the cash offer may be worth it to them to accept, even though it's $5,000 less money. Or they may feel that it is a stronger offer. If somebody comes in with an 800 credit score, for example, they may feel as though that's worth taking a lower offer. So then let's say an FHA or a VA that's, again, $10,000 or $20,000 over the asking price. So weigh that as you're reviewing offers with your sellers. One of the most powerful things we can do in winning offers for our clients, for the buyers. Let's flip over and talk about multiple offers. When we are writing offers for our buyers, there are two areas that I think are really important. One is the ability to get the deal closed. What is this buyer's ability to have the deal close? And if this is a cash offer, or the buyer has an 800 credit score and they're coming in with 30% down, to me, that would be the most important thing, the financial strength of the buyer, because it indicates the likelihood that that transaction is going to get to a closing table. And I think that's really important to share with a seller. So if you are working with a strong buyer, strong credit or cash, and make sure cash is actually cash, not cash contingent upon getting a home equity loan or cash from a relative or so on. Cash is cash. So if it's not, it has to be contingent on where they're getting the cash from. But if it's a strong buyer financially, I would, and I do, ask that my buyers allow me to share their credit scores with the selling agent, with the listing agent. Because again, if they've got an 800 credit score and I give that information to a seller's agent / seller, then that seller has a high level of confidence that my buyer is a strong buyer who can get the transaction closed. If other agents that I'm competing with don't give that selling agent, that listing agent, equal information, then they have no idea whether that buyer has a 550 credit score or a 750 credit score or somewhere in between. So by me providing them with a really strong financial background, whether it's cash, along with proof of funds, those are really powerful. The financial strength of the buyer is really powerful. I got a call last week from one of our agents who said, I don't want my buyers paying over the appraisal price. I don't think it's up to you. I think it's up to the buyer. And so I caution that traditional thinking is that we shouldn't pay over appraisal price for real estate. But remember that appraisal values are determined at a point in time. It's a snapshot of an instant in the real estate business. And if they had done the appraisal 2 days earlier, before a couple of comps fell off from months before and couldn't be used, or it was done a couple of days later where there were new comps that would increase the price, that particular appraisal may be low or high depending upon simply what comps were available. More importantly, in a seller's market where there are multiple offers and we've seen a steady rise in prices, appraisal values lag the market values. So we're always running behind in market value in a rising market. It's simple economics. And so when you consider writing an offer and you want to win for your buyer, I would seriously consider and recommend to them to do what's called an appraisal guarantee. In other words, this buyer will bring an additional amount to closing in the amount of, let's say, up to $5,000. If the appraisal comes in lower than the purchase price. That's a pretty powerful clause to include because a lot of agents aren't doing that because of their own belief that you shouldn't have to pay more than the appraisal value for a home. Well, that's just not realistic in a rising market. That's not how markets go up. So if you want to win in multiple offer situations, I think that appraisal guarantee clause is very, very powerful. I will go back to what I've said before many times. Having a very strong earnest deposit is really important if you want to win sort of market. And recognize that not everyone, FHA buyers and VA buyers, may not have the ability to have that additional cash available. So you have to take that into consideration, and you have to write your very, very best offer you can within their financial parameters. We can't make up money for them. So, it may require a higher asking price or asking for fewer closing costs in one of those situations in order to win. FHA and VA, RD, all of those are going to be more challenging situations to win in multiple offers situations. So again, I think that credit scores are really important. I think we are getting more and more, we are moving away from what we refer to as buyer love letters, where the interpretation of them could be perceived as a violation of fair housing. We have to be really, really careful about the use of them. I know some agents are continuing to use them. They're not illegal, but be very, very cautious about when you put those in. If you decide to put those in front of a seller, that your seller is not making a decision based on the violation of a protected class. And so that's what I have to say about that. So again, any questions at this point? I hope that helps you win out there in a multiple offer. Oh, one more thing, non-refundable earnest deposits. Non-refundable earnest deposits are good, but I would caution that if you're going to do a non-refundable earnest deposit, that you just don't make it a blanket non-refundable earnest deposit, that it would become non-refundable, for example, after all the inspections have been performed, including the well and septic. Again, be very, very specific about which inspections have to be completed and approved before that earnest deposit becomes non-refundable. Again, that's a powerful tool, but be careful how you use it. You don't want to put your buyer at risk of losing that because you weren't specific enough. So again, if you have questions, post them here. If you have something you want me to bring up next week, make a post. We'll deal with it. Thanks for joining, and go out there and have a great day.